Today I have with me Senior Advocate Sanjay Hegde, and we're here to speak about a new ordinance which was just cleared by the governor of Uttar Pradesh. The new ordinance in question aims to criminalize conversions carried out in the name of marriage. Now, Mr. Hegde, thank you so much for being with us today. This is a wonderful opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, Hamza, for having me.
Thank you so much, sir. Let's just get into it right away. This prima facie appears to be something that is unconstitutional. It's unconscionable.
Absolutely. See, this has been framed as an anti conversion law. But in the anti conversion law, there are sections which relate to marriage. Essentially, it gives the relatives of marrying people a right to interfere in an interfaith marriage. Now, you have an interfaith marriage. The two parties intend to live in their separate faiths. Nevertheless, the any relative can get up and say, "Oh, there is a conversion also happening," and then the onus of the to prove that no conversion has happened also lies on the party. It's not The onus is not on the accuser.
Right.
The onus is on the person who is alleged to be converting. Now, please take it into our current social context. We have a lot of people falling in love in interfaith romances. Now, supposing you follow one faith and your wife follows another faith, you are essentially giving your potential father in law an excuse to interfere and try and break the marriage continually. We have seen it in the Supreme Court in all kinds of marriages, intra faith also. Sometimes two people are not of the right gotra, so they are not of the right economic status. And we have seen parents fight tooth and nail. They think they have custody over the girl. And if the girl has decided to walk out on their own, it has become a shame to the family. They'll do almost anything to break such a marriage.
Right.
Now, you are giving all that legislative sanction. And I dare say there will be so much misery created by this that it's just not funny. It's just not, it's so 2020 a law. I mean, you made a bad year much worse.
What is very peculiar about this whole situation is that this is not new. We have seen this before. We have seen this in America, where there was a law to prohibit marriage between the white residents and African Americans. We have seen this in South Africa during the apartheid, where the four racial communities weren't allowed to intermarry. We have also seen this, and most importantly, in Nuremberg, Germany, when Hitler was seizing power and the Nazis were taking control, they had prohibited Jews from marrying Germans to keep the bloodline pure. And after
Absolutely.
all these years of history, it appears we as a people, as a country, have not learned anything.
We refuse to learn. It's as simple as that. I keep holding that, we wrote a magnificent constitution simply because we had so much violence which preceded it. The World War, the Jewish Holocaust, the assassination of the Mahatma, and the partition riot. So that time we said, no, 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 all this can't happen, and therefore we wrote a sensible constitution. After 2, 3 generations, we seem to have forgotten all that. And we have mixed up a lot of things out here. We have mixed up the our very patriarchal notion that family honor is bound in how our younger women behave, that they will marry only with the permission of the family to somebody whom the family considers suitable. Women, in that sense, are almost considered receptacles of family honor and hence property. The other flip side is that there are all these young, virile people of the other faith who are only flaunting their sexuality to try and entice our weak women and then convert them and then go on to propagate their race and not our race. This is all total nonsense. We have had a great history of all kinds of marriages happening, all kinds of marriages being successful, and all kinds of very suitable marriages failing. Now, a marriage is something which is one of the most personal decisions and life altering decisions that a person can take, a young person can take. He or she, when he gets married, he or she finds a partner with whom you expect to live the next 20, 30, 40, whatever number of years you are given together. A marriage is between two individuals who have undertaken that commitment. Unfortunately, in India, it's often seen as something where the entire uh, family, the village, the tribe, the caste, everybody participates. I think young India should necessarily go back to saying, Mia Bibi Razi, kya karega Kazi?
Right. And so this is where we see like there's a lot of legal violations, not only constitutional ones. It clearly violates Article 25, which promises the right to practice and propagate religion. Article 21, which assures protection of life and liberty. It also, most importantly, violates the judgment in Puttaswamy, which assures a right to privacy. How does this play out in this law? And if there was a challenge, what would be the arguments in favor of or in against of? Mostly they are going to be in against of, though.
No. See, that's where uh, we think that it's a slam dunk, but it isn't. You see, it has been framed as an anti-conversion law.
Right.
Now, as far as conversions are concerned, we have a very problematic judgment passed during the emergency, which is a constitution bench called the Reverend Stanislaus. Now, Reverend Stanislaus says that, oh yes, you have a right to convert, but you also have a right not to be converted through force or allurement and things like that. I think that judgment will stand in the way, at least of the high courts, really getting too deep into this law, or they will force the high courts not to strike down but to read down this law. Yes, there is a mega challenge that Stanislaus is no longer good law after Puttaswamy. And Puttaswamy is a 9-judge bench, which is unanimous, as opposed to Stanislaus, which is a 5-judge bench. I believe that the Supreme Court got it wrong in Stanislaus because it did not focus on the word right to propagate. Now, the right to propagate, the fundamental right to propagate your religion, was deliberately put there in the Constituent Assembly by a Catholic priest from my part of the country, from South Canara, Father Jerome D'Souza. So, if I can propagate my religion, I should be able to invite you to my religion.
Right.
As a practicing Pastafarian, I should be able to tell you that come and worship at the church of the flying spaghetti monster. May you be touched by the noodle. Whatever is my faith and belief, I must be given full opportunity to lead people to it.
Right. And so I believe this is also in line with the fact that most religions, at least from a purely religious perspective, talk about gathering the lost sheep, that
Yes,
bring the lost sheep back into the fold. That's why
yes,
propagation of religion is very important as a constitutional right. If someone really believes in practicing their religion.
yes, because it is a religious duty among some religions. There are some religions which refuse to take converts, like the Parsis, for
Right.
instance. Uh, uh, then there are religions like Hinduism, where you go on the that we are not necessarily a religion, we are a way of life. Now, if you look at this law very strictly and were to apply it very strictly, if an Iyer and an Iyengar got married, and an Iyengar who is a strict monotheist, who worships only Vishnu or his avatars, were persuaded to worship Shiva as well, would that not fall foul of this law?
Right.
Are you converting? So the religious sphere is something which is deeply personal, deeply private. For as the proverb itself goes, for even the devil knoweth not what lies in the minds of man.
Right.
How can you regulate or criminalize anything? Let's take this very law, for instance. Two people marry, and then they say, we have not converted. Who is to tell you what faith that they follow or they do not follow? And then you will have, supposing you have a father or a brother who wants to break the marriage. Oh, no, we saw Eid being celebrated and my sister participated in Eid. Or vice versa. I saw Diwali being celebrated. This inviting the whole town and village to fiddle around in the marriage of two people is a very bad idea.
Right. And so, not only is it a clear intrusion on someone's marriage, but there is also an aspect which I believe for some reason a lot of people have missed, is that increasingly more and more we are having statutes which carry a strict liability. So the whole question of intention, mens rea, is out of the window. If you are so much so caught doing the act which is prohibited under the statute, you are to serve a minimum mandatory sentence. And this actually goes contrary to general criminal jurisprudence, where the question of mens rea is very important, because a person may perform an innocent act, which may be prohibited by law, for reasons necessary in the situation.
Absolutely. See, let's look at this. There is a religious preacher who's asked by two young people to perform a marriage ceremony. He performs a marriage ceremony because they say, I'm X or Y. He doesn't know. But then he's accused that you necessarily converted one of them, because without that, a marriage in that religion is not possible. You are endangering a whole community of people and professions. Marriages of children, I agree, are deep commitments within the family. People invest a lot of hopes. But if your child tells you that, no, this is whom I want to marry, and it can be interfaith, it can be intercaste, or sargotra, or if they live abroad these days, it can be even same sex. Ultimately, when your child finds love and decides that for X reason or Y, that this is the person with whom I plan a partnership, you have to do your best to facilitate. You have only one option, whether to attend the ceremony or not to attend the ceremony.
Right. Do you think all of these matters could be clubbed together and could go to the Supreme Court at some point?
Well, if there are all kinds of horrendous laws from all kinds of states, maybe one day they could be clubbed together. Right. But I actually anticipate that it would be better legal strategy to have matters challenging different state acts in different state high courts, get them speedily heard, and then push them up the appellate process as fast as possible. Right. The rushing to the Supreme Court straight out is like rushing for a lottery. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. But if you get it, fine. If you don't, then there is no court that can rectify what the Supreme Court does.
Right. What do you think would be the solution to this? Because there's clearly a legal problem which the courts will take care of. But in reality, the problem lies outside of the courts because, the Supreme Court may pass the most beautiful orders. But if society isn't ready to accept that legal position or the wisdom behind it, there clearly cannot be a solution to this. So how do you think that we as a society should proceed to like solve a problem like this?
Well, who is society? Society is you and me. And I have probably lesser time left than you have. So unless young India stands up and then young India says, look, I decide who I want to marry, I decide what I want to eat, I decide what I want to think. And anybody who comes in my way or tries to regulate that doesn't get my vote. Then and only then will politicians back off. Tell a politician that this is something which will lose you votes. See how fast they run away from it. So unless young India says "Pyar kiya to darna kya," or all you need is love, unless young India says that challenges every politician, tell me what do you say of this, and you make sure that the politician knows that if he gives the wrong answer, he loses your vote. This kind of everybody and their angry fufaji getting involved in your marriage will continue.
Thanks again for taking out the time, and we look forward to sitting down with you on a more regular basis on to discuss the legal events as and when they happen and to analyze court judgments as and when they are delivered. So thank you so much.